Cpac, who mentioned, Victor, about saving children. Part of this incredible work that we're doing alongside ADF International and so many of our partners is on defeating Christian persecution, on ending Christian persecution. We had to hone on, focus on in this issue of Christian persecution.
I think one important thing to remember is that Christians are the most persecuted religious group on the planet, period, than anywhere else, all other countries combined. But it happens all across the world. We have cases at Alliance Defending Freedom involving missionaries being kicked out of countries like Turkey. We have cases of prisoners within. We have people in Pakistan, Christians in Pakistan, who are threatened with death, who are sometimes killed simply because they preach the name of Jesus. Even in a place like Europe, tomorrow actually, the Finnish Supreme Court will be deciding a case we've been supporting for 5 years of a Finnish parliamentarian who simply posted a Bible verse on Twitter, it was then Twitter, saying that she didn't agree with her church's position on a pride parade, and for that she's been hounded and prosecuted for over 5 years for alleged hate crimes. So please keep Heidi Rosanen in your prayers. We hope that is a very positive decision tomorrow. But that happens every single continent all around the world, where you have Christians who are targeted, killed, they're not allowed to preach within their churches are burned down, where they're marginalized. It's an atrocity. And at the United Nations this year, President Trump went up on the stage in front of everyone and said that exact thing, that Christians are more persecuted than any, more positive, more hopeful for the future of America's protection and defense of religious freedom and Christians around the world than ever before.
Kyle Adds, Public Policy Director at Equipping the Persecuted. Tell us about your...
Same church, same denomination, but we represent the church. And through the church, we represent who Christ is to the world. And when we see that a global religious persecution amendment, like a country of particular concern now in Nigeria, that was done here because we have people wanting to promote religious freedom in other countries. Where Islam is taking over.
우리 대한민국의 상황에 대해서 너무 정확하게 계속 말씀을 해주셔서 늘 고맙게 생각하고 있습니다.
I am so grateful. Frank Uto is here, Nigerian attorney, also with equipping the persecuted.
사실 한국의 많은 분들이 저에게 제보를 주고 도와주고 있고, 제가 정확하게 진단할 수 있었던 것은 많은 한국 국민들이 저를 도와주기 때문입니다.
감사드리고 그런 걸 잘 받아서 소화해 준 우리 더 그런 모습이 고든찬 선생님의 말씀이 너무 귀합니다.
Thank you so much, and I think your work of processing, listening to all the things that the South Korean public are giving you is just so magnificent, and we are so grateful for your work.
Thank you very much. My name is Frank Uto. I'm a Nigerian attorney. I was trained in England.
Cpac이 진행되는 동안에 이 모든 과정에서 총리님과 함께 일을 한 I am so happy and honored to be working together with you. 저는 영광은 저기 있습니다. 함께 할 수 있어서 제가 큰 영광입니다.
Nigerians. 좀 이따 뵙겠습니다.
I come from one of the most devastated communities in Nigeria. My village is known as Yelwata. Yelwata was the center of gravity. My 2-year-old nephew, Sate Amaki, they held him by the legs and smashed his head on the wall and got his brains peeling out. So that has been our story. Our story in Nigeria is 100 times worse than the story in Gaza or any other place in the world. Unfortunately, we lived in the forgotten corner of the world, so nobody tells our story. So before I proceed, I want to use this opportunity to thank so much President Trump. That was the first American president that has come to the rescue of Nigerian Christians. If you ask, thank you very much. If you permit me, I will say let President Trump rule for the next 10 years. But unfortunately, he's being limited by the Constitution. The 22nd
Trump
Amendment.
2028, what do we think? Trump 2028?
2028년 트럼프 대통령
Yes,
어떨까요?
I so much love him. And if he stands for election in Nigeria,
이제
he
나이지리아
will get the votes
대통령
of Nigerian
선거
Christians 99%.
Right.
And if Congressmen Riley Moore,
기독교인들이 99%
Chris Smith,
투표를 해야
Marlin
되는데
Studman, Senator Ted Cruz, Senator James Langford will stand for election in Nigeria. They will get at least 98% in Christian. The Nigerian situation, for every persecution of Christians, you may have heard anywhere in the world, 70% happened in Nigeria. I mean, 70% happened in Nigeria. And Nigerian government has made it somehow an official policy.
나이지리아의 공식 정책이
It started in 1804 with the jihad. And upon independence in 1960, even though Christians were in the majority,
독립 이후에
the biggest politician at that point was Sir Ahmadu Bello.
대다수였지만
And he said Nigeria is the inheritance of their forebears, that's the jihadists. And they will not relent until the Quran is dipped in the Atlantic Ocean. That is a metaphor for conquering the whole of Nigeria. Because the southern part of Nigeria is Christian dominated, while the north is Muslim dominated. Then we are in the middle belt of Nigeria, which is the belt that has held the north and the south of Nigeria together. And in the run-up to the current democracy in 1999, the military government was headed by a Muslim. And he handed over a constitution to us without any constitutional conference, unlike what America did in 1787 in Philadelphia. They sat together and agreed and gave themselves that document. In Nigeria, we never gave ourselves that document. It was handed over to us in 1999, and in the Constitution of Nigeria, which still subsists to this day, Sharia is mentioned 72 times. Islam is mentioned 54
I know
times.
you all in Texas are fighting the Sharia situation and the whole Islam.
Yes.
Don, do you want to contest? Go ahead.
Yeah, in Texas, they just voted on this issue because it's becoming a huge issue where they want, instead of constitutional law, they want Sharia law, which, as you know, is horrific. And the Texas voters in the Republican primary, it was 95% wanted to outlaw that. So we're pushing to fight that back even here in Texas. And that's going across the country.
Frank, I want to get Sarah here because I know one of the things is obviously the issue of the Islamic radical militants, but we have these authoritarian governments, these totalitarian governments, these communists, okay? Communists, these Marxists, they are anti-God. It is about getting rid of the family. It is getting rid of God. Their goal is complete government control. You, Sarah Bacon, human rights advocate and filmmaker, what are the Russians doing? Let's go right there. What are they doing?
Thank you, Mercy. I just want to say, too, it was one of the greatest honors of my life to serve President Trump as a national security advisor and an advisor on international religious freedom. So this is now what I've been doing for a few years. What Russia has done inside their own country and what they have exported to territories like Ukraine, where they have claimed that land, is nothing new. The biggest fear for an authoritarian or a totalitarian leader, whether it's Xi Jinping in China or Putin in Russia, are people of faith. Because they have one leader, and they're, at least as a Christian, my one leader is Jesus Christ. That's it. Nobody else will ever tell me what to do or how to live. Certainly not Putin, not Xi Jinping. So this is a concern for them as they go into these areas and try to take them over, and in the case of Putin, make them Russia, right? So they have actively targeted and persecuted people of faith inside Russian-occupied Ukraine, mostly evangelicals and Protestants. However, they've not stopped there. They have persecuted. There are 0 Catholic bishops or priests left in all of Russian-occupied Ukraine. They have either been killed, tortured, or run out. There are no priests left in Russian-occupied Ukraine. The evangelicals and Protestants, they have burned and looted over 650 of their churches. They've destroyed them. They've targeted them specifically. They have killed and tortured over 49 priests, pastors, and other faith leaders, again, mostly evangelical and Protestant denominations, because they can't control them. And then they don't stop there. They go after the Orthodox who don't align with the Russian Orthodox Church, who align with a different Orthodox Church. They clear them out too, and they target them. And there's a wonderful website I hope you would go to look, because we have documented all of this. We have documented the persecution of the Jewish community inside Russian-occupied Ukraine. We've documented the persecution of the Christians, the Orthodox, the Catholics. If you would go to faithundersiege.com, it is all right there. This is not new for Russia. In 2021, the United States State Department elevated this in their reporting about the persecution from Putin and his government, what they do inside their own country to Jehovah's Witnesses, to other Christian believers. You know, you can't say the name Jesus on the street in Russia. You can be arrested for that, for just saying the name of Jesus and talking about it. You have to be inside of a building that, but not on the street. That's what happens in Russia. That's who they are. That's what they want to push out, and that's what they've done in Ukraine.
And you also, Sean, you mentioned this about even in the UK, you go pray on the sidewalk outside of an abortion clinic, you're going to be thrown into jail. But also, we've seen this here in the United States.
Yeah, there's a real assault on freedom of speech, I think, in a lot of the Western world. Unfortunately, sometimes here in the U.S. as well, but especially within Europe, within the UK, and that affects hugely religious believers. Because what are we called to do? We're called to preach the gospel of Christ. We're called to praise God, whether it's privately, praying in a closet, or whether it's publicly out on the streets. And so when you have people who see the horror of abortion and they want to go and either invite somebody to have a conversation about maybe changing what they're about to do, or even just to stand there silently. If you're within 100 meters of an abortion facility, you can't do that. You will be arrested. Maybe you can protest for some terrorist group or something like that. But if you're just silently praying and hoping that people will hear that through some special message of God, maybe reconsider, you can't do it. That's illegal in the UK right now. So it's a really terrifying trend, and there's so many other things about this. When you look at things like the Digital Services Act in the EU, where the EU, the European Union, the European Commission are essentially trying to control speech online, not just within Europe, but within places like America, where we have a much stronger culture of free speech. And that threatens people who want to control everything and make sure that you can't say what you believe, that you can't say anything controversial, that's a problem. We have to stand up against it.
We also have with us Grace Drexel. Her father is a pastor who was thrown into jail in China. Grace, it's an honor to have you with us. Tell us, first of all, how your father's doing, and secondly, the horrors of what we're seeing from the Chinese, the CCP government in what they're doing in cracking down on people of faith.
Thank you so much for having me. I just want to say this is my first time at such a big event, and I'm extremely nervous and honored.
I'm going to tell them to be a little quiet right now, because Grace, we're going to have to go.
My father, his name is Pastor Ezra Jin, and he's being persecuted everywhere, that we should not have any other gods before him. Whereas the Chinese Communist Party wants to control the church and wants to control faith. Yet my father stands really strong and saying that even before he went into prison, he has prayed hallelujah, that he hopes that the gospel will spread further in China. We know that this is a spiritual battle, and for my family, this has broken our hearts, and our father has been ripped from my life. My family are all American American citizens. We three children, my two siblings and his 3 children, and my 2 kids, and now I'm also pregnant with a 3rd child. We're all American citizens. And before this, I was working as a lowly Senate staffer, but proudly serving my country. And yet now I am forced to go around the world as a pregnant lady, advocating for my father, and I just want him to be able to see his grandchildren again. I just want to feel safe in America, and yet the Chinese government has also been targeting my family and harassing and spreading fear for my family in the United States. We believe that freedom of religion is central to who we are as an American, and if the world's largest authoritarian state can eradicate religious freedom without consequences, it then undermines the authority of America's founding values. It is a national security imperative because the Chinese are saying you cannot protect your loved ones, you cannot protect your values, and I'm asking us here today to say that that is a lie. The U.S. right now is in a unique position to stand strong, and I'm hoping that my family will soon see my father again. Thank you so much.
Great. We're going to pray for your father now. When we close, we're going to definitely want to end with a prayer, and that will be our intention to pray for your father. I want to go to you, Lance. What keeps you up at night?
I'll be honest with you. What keeps me up at night is the fact that 30 million evangelical and pro-life Catholic Christians in America are the firewall between the destruction of this country and its survival. I'm worried that at the 250th anniversary, this moment in time will not become a bookend that historians look at before the collapse of the country. There's not enough mobilizing. I'm so glad you're doing this with Cpac Faith. There's not enough mobilizing of the Christian community, the 30 to 35 million of us that are out there, to be a muscular catalytic force to reshape this nation. Either we have a great awakening or we will not make it into the future. There has to be a fusion of the political and the spiritual. And we can no longer be embarrassed or inarticulate in taking that position, because this is the hope for the future of America. That's what keeps me up at night. I don't mind, we don't mind the death threats. At my age, I'm old enough, so I've had a good life and all that stuff. My children and my grandchildren are the reason why I'm not going to stop.
I think, Pastor Burns, I want to go to you. We've seen, President Trump, he went through 2 assassination attempts. It was truly what I believe God's hand and a miracle. And the fact that he is leading in this moment of time, but there's always a sense, as we have this war in Iran, of that fear and uncertainty. What's your message to the Christian, to people of faith?
Well, the message, again, thank you so much for doing this. This is what we need here in America. We really need the believers to really open your mouth. And I can't hear nobody. I'm saying you really got to open your mouth and really take this nation back. God has given us a leader in the name of Donald J. Trump, saved his life twice, so that he can stand bold and allow us, the believers, to carry out the Great Commission in this time period. Now, what we have to do as believers, you can tell I'm a little excited about this, because the reality is, if we don't do what Lance just said, we will lose America. What's happening in London will happen in America. What's happening in India will happen in America. The enemy that comes from the gates of hell will do whatever it takes to silence our voices. We can't live in a nation where men can participate in female sports. We can't live in a nation where it's easy to kill babies and we, the believers, sit back and let it happen. We can't live in a nation like in California where children can manipulate themselves and change their sex, and poor parents pull children away from their parents, and we sit back in the body of Christ and let it happen. Muslims will stand up and fight for their faith. Other faiths stand up and fight for their faith. But we, the body of Christ, we cannot no longer be the silent majority. We got to rise up like never before and look the enemy in the face and say, for God I'll live, and for God I'll die.
끼고 있는 사람.
Still yet will fight for the living God. You gotta fight. Somebody say fight.
But I do want to say, if you can, anyone wants to just sponsor and say a prayer, especially over Grace's father, for his release, and for all those Christians being persecuted. I'll open it up to our pastors who are here who wants to go first.
Father, the word says you give us the keys to the kingdom. What we bind on earth will be bound in heaven we will loose, and heaven we will loose on earth. Lord, we know that in heaven initiates, and we know that it is your desire because you came to set the captives free. And we come against the demonic powers that's keeping Pastor Jin in prison in China right now, as well as other evangelicals who are in prison. We pray, Lord God, that you will loose them from prison, even if it means President Trump putting pressure on the Chinese government, as he's doing it right now with Iran and with Venezuela. We pray that pressure would come from the United States, that if you want oil, if you want our help, you have to have human rights and religious freedom in your nation. So I pray, Lord God, for your kingdom to come, your will to be done on earth as it is in heaven. And we specifically pray for Pastor Jin to be released in Jesus' mighty name, Yeshua HaMashiach's name, and everyone said, amen and amen.
All right, any final words before we go on, before we end here? Anyone wants to say their call to action as we're quickly, 10 seconds each. Lance, how much over to Pastor Chen? Just
What was the question?
Just as we're closing out, just like 15 seconds on what your call to action is for our audience.
Yeah, the call to action, and I really feel this is that we need to mobilize out the city to pray. Mark 11:17 says, my house will be a house of prayer for all nations. 2 Chronicles 7:14 says, if my people, that's us, who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray, seek my face, and turn from their wicked ways. We have to repent as a church. Then I'll hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal our land. We need our land to be healed in Jesus' name. The president has made a declaration that we should all, I can't believe we aren't talking about it, May 17th, on the 250th anniversary of the First Continental Congress, calling for prayer to dedicate America to God. He says, I want to rededicate America on the 250th anniversary. Nobody even talks about it. May 17th. My prayer, my call to action is that we will see at least 250 great awakening preachers that are not ashamed of the gospel and able to defend our political ideology, raised up on the 16th that will meet together, and on the 17th stand behind the president dedicating this country.
So we have to make sure there's a chair
I really
for
think
you
we're
for
going to
that.
be controls with Cpac. Sign up. Come
This is
to the website.
conversation.
We're going to be giving you
It's
this
not like a long
because
speech or
we call it million voices.
길게 말씀 하나
It's not one person.
게 아니고 대화이고 그냥 코멘트 몇 개씩만 하시면 될 것 같습니다.
오케이.
There are millions of voices that we want to empower. Every single person can influence 10 to 30 to 50 to 100 people. You have a more powerful voice than you realize. We're going to be giving you tools in the next 7 months that have never been made available to you, and you are going to be the answer to save this country. Well, we'll go to Cpac and we'll be sending it to you from there.
The Bible says that my people perish for the lack of knowledge. That God has given us the power to tread over serpents and demons. We have the power through the blood of the Lamb. Do you believe that? Say yes.
Prime Minister 제가 안고 대위 안고 나중에 이름 부르면 호명하시면 그때 나와서 참석해 주세요.
So that we, the people of the United States of America, will take this nation back, serve who I believe is the greatest president in our lifetime, and turn this nation back over to God.
Amen. Well, when the Lord called me out of media, in one respect, He called me into media in another respect. In saving this country.
And the secret weapon to that is the power of Jesus. So I am challenging each and every one of you, if your heart is not right with Jesus right now, get it right. He will give you the wisdom, he will give you the discernment, and he will give you the courage to stand up, to speak up, and to serve how he calls you to serve. Right now, he is calling me to serve in the space of young women. He's calling me to equip our young women with the courage to stand with fierce faith in the face of the enemy and say, no, like you said, Pastor, I live for God and God alone. And Cpac is coming alongside our young ladies with young women of faith. We are not just equipping young women in my organization to just survive life. We're equipping young women to be leaders of courage and faith, a clear sense of identity and purpose, emotional resiliency, and also leadership skills grounded in integrity and faith. With that, all things are possible. And we know that together as an army, we can and we will save this country. We are equipping the next generation of Deborahs who will just show up and do what God calls them to do. So if you need help equipping young ladies, please contact Cpac. My organization is thegritandgracenation.org. We work with young ladies 8 all the way into the mid-30s. And we are rising up an army that is not afraid to say, yes, I stand for God first, country, family, and community. Thank you, Mercedes.
I guess my call to action and challenge is to men. There's no one else coming, gentlemen. It's time for America to stand and be courageous. It's not hard. It is not. It's just common sense. We put the weight on this on women for far too long. Men, stand, be courageous. No one else is coming. We have to save our nation now.
Mine would be as you get to know your politicians, those you're voting for, those you've already voted for, that are in office, know where they stand on domestic issues as well as foreign issues. Do the research. Cpac has provided many tools to help, but do it yourself. Find out who they are. Keep them, hold them accountable. You know, when we go to D.C., we're able to pray in offices of those senators and congressmen and women who have a faith, who have stand-up. In the State Department, we can pray with people. Not every president is like that. His president surrounds himself with people that are calling for action, that are doing it, as well as get to know other organizations like Equipping the Persecuted that are doing things on the ground. Pray for us, pray for those people, be a voice for those who don't have a voice, and support them.
When it comes to our fundamental freedoms enshrined in the First Amendment of our Constitution, if you look all around the world, there's only one country left still strongly defending religious freedom and freedom of speech, and that's the United States of America. If we don't stand up for those freedoms, nobody else will. There's no one else. So we have to stand up and stand up proudly to every dictator, every terrorist, every totalitarian, and say these are our God-given rights, and we're going to announce them and defend them around the world because no one else will.
Thank you to Cpac and Mercedes, you of course. My challenge is that 41 years ago, Ronald, if you want to fundamentally change America, it does not begin in the halls of Congress here in Washington, D.C. If you want to fundamentally change America, it begins at the dinner table in every home across this country. That's where it begins. All of these are great pursuits, they're great strategies. But if we do not win the home, listen, if we want to see a national awakening, we need to see a family awakening first. There are 2 million students, junior high and high school students, who attend youth group every week in America. 2.2 million.
Prime Minister Wang came here.
Oh, 21 years ago.
He's a speaker. See you.
Yes, sir.
I would just encourage you that, remember, around the world, people may not look like you, they may not pray like you. When one faith is threatened, all of our faith is threatened. And as a follower of Christ, I see God in every one of those people around the globe who's persecuted for their faith. I would encourage you, as Americans, use your purchasing power and stop buying products made in China that are made from forced labor, the forced abortion of Uyghur women, forced sterilization of the Uyghur community. They may not pray like you, but I promise you, if you stand up for them, the Lord will open doors and you can share the gospel with them. That's not the only reason to do it, right? But we need to be doing that. So I encourage you, use your purchasing power and put some pressure on them. And get on your knees and pray for Christians in Nigeria, in China, in Iran, who are hanged simply for their faith. Get on Egypt, get on your knees and pray for them. Pray for persecuted people around the world. We live in the greatest country in the world. We are so blessed. Just don't forget that.
It was a man from this state, the 43rd president of the United States and a former governor of Texas, George Bush. He said in his first address to the American Congress after the 9/11 attack, he said, freedom and fear, justice and cruelty have always been at war, and we know that God is not neutral between them. That is a call to you, the United States people.
주십시오. 오랜만입니다. 한 번 인연이 되면 지는데 지금 그런 것 같습니다. 다시 만난 걸
Lies
보니까.
not in the might of ability or in the scale of its wealth, but in its moral authority.
Yes.
And like Jesus said,
트럼프 대통령님과 가끔씩 아직도 만납니까?
that you do unto me. So this is a call to America. Stand up for us. The Muslims in Nigeria, the Islamists,
우리 한국의 어려운 자유민주주의의 어려움에 대해서도 말씀을 드려주시고 또 기회가 되면 저하고도 대화할 수 있으면 좋겠습니다.
Please speak for the difficulties
So this is a challenge for you to stand up for us. And finally, we are equipping the persecuted. We always rush to the scene anytime there's this attack. Because nobody cares for the 6.6 million people living in the IDP camps, the Christians.
감사합니다. 이번에 막 중간에 행사 중간에라도 좀 뵐 수 있기를 바랍니다. God bless you.
Thank you so much. And I think that this is an opportunity for everyone to not just talk, but to walk the walk. Please don't forget us. Don't forget my father, Chinese pastor Ezra Jin, in prison. Please, if you could call your congressperson or whoever that you have access to ask President Trump to look at Xi Jinping in the eye and just ask for my father to be back. That my father could be reunited with my family and his family. And also, it would be the main ask is also to pray with us. Because we believe that God is a God who is greater than all, and that He is a breaker of chains, and He is the one who can have miracles happen. Thank you so much.
지금 아까 들어가셨는데 지금 또
One critical thing we all must do. We must pray without ceasing. God will continue to bless America
칼라스 현재가
and continue
최고
to show us mercy we do not deserve. Thank you all for being here.
And I want to thank all of you and, really pray for Cpac this week, pray for safety, pray for everyone who's traveling from across the globe to be here, because we are one big, massive family. And we're all here to do what is good and what is right and what is true, and to fight against the evils of this world, the evils of Christian persecution, the evils of human trafficking, the evils of communism. We stand on the side of truth. We are going to do what is right for this country and what is right for the world to help the most vulnerable. That is what you all are investing in. That is what you all are doing every day. be battle ready. Get your sword and shield. Be ready for this battle. Because at the end of the day, it is God's victory. And that is what we're all going to stand together. Thank you so much and God bless.
잘 일어서면 안 돼. 윤호영 오셨구나. 좋은 자리에 앉아서 빨리 영상 촬영을 해야 돼. 교수님 자리 잘 앉아야 돼. May I sit on here? Yeah, okay, thank you. 교수님 일단 저쪽에 앉으세요. 여기는 이분 자리. There's another panel. Yeah. The South Korea Prime Minister.
Don't go anywhere. The International Summit is coming up in about 5 minutes, so stay here with us for the International Summit coming up, moderated by Matt and Mercedes.
Can you watch my equipment 1 second?
네.
Can you watch it, please?
Yeah.
Thank you. I'll be right back.
네, 조금 있으면 이제 황교안 총리, 황교안 대표가 올 겁니다. 네. 네, 많은 분들이 지금 함께하고 있습니다. 네. 네, 지금 상당히 많은 사람들이 있고요. 네, 지금 칼라산즈 등 많은 사람들이 있습니다. 네. 인터내셔널 서밋 섹션이 진행됩니다. 인터내셔널 서밋 섹션에는 지금 어떤 사람들이 오는지 보여드리겠습니다.
Never expired, right? Stand in the gap for those who can't hold it for themselves. Send me. Here I am.
너무 차례예요?
네. 이제 황교안 총리, 황교안 대표께서 오십니다. 지금 오늘 인터내셔널 서밋 섹션의 시작이고 지금 27일 여기 미국 시간으로 27일입니다. 한국 시간은 28일이겠죠. 네, 그때 또 합니다. 내일이 아니고요. 모레가 될 겁니다. 네, 모레에 지금 언제일지는 좀 아직 확정되지 않았습니다. 다 씌워져가지고 지금 모르겠네요. 네. 황교안 대표님 자리가 저기로 배분된 것 같은데. 네, 지금 너무 많다 보니까 지금 저희 다 각국 정상급입니다. 정상급이고. 대표님은 저쪽 자리 배정됐고요. 지금 이 자체가 지금 앤드루 쿠퍼, 워렌 이제 영국 총리가 이쪽 왼쪽에 자리 잡고요. 슈랩, 메르세드 슈랩, 고든창, 여기가 Cpac 의장진, 그 다음에 이제 여기도 폴란드 총리 등이 지금처럼 자리 잡고 있습니다. 네. 교수님 열심히 찍새 역할을 하고 계십니다. 네, 지금은 이제 Cpac이 중앙이고, 이제 영국 총리 이쪽이고, 영국 폴란드는 이쪽, 황교안 총리 이쪽. 저쪽이, 저기가.
International Summit. Please give a big Texas welcome. Andrew Cooper, co-founder of Cpac Australia. Warren Mundine, chairman of Cpac Australia. Liz Truss, former United Kingdom Prime Minister. Jay Aiba, chairman of Cpac Japan. Jay Kusijanovich, member of the presidency of Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ambassador Rick Brunel, Cpac board member. Matt Schlapp, chairman of Cpac. Mercedes Schlapp, Cpac senior fellow. Gordy Chang, Cpac board member. Zach McGanley, founder and CEO of Rivada Networks and founder of Libertas. Antonio Giordano, member of the Chamber of Deputies of Italy. George Weinberg, Republicans Overseas Chairman of Germany. Ariane Agashi, Managing Director of the Sovereignty Foundation. Michael Raycon, journalist and TV presenter. Adrian Kubicki, Consul General of the Republic of Poland in New York. Mateusz Morawiecki, former Prime Minister of Poland, and George Simeon, ECR Executive Vice President. And Wang Kaiyan, former Prime Minister of the Republic of Korea.
대표님 좀 앞으로, 대표님 좀 앞으로 오세요. Yeah. Former Prime Minister and acting President. Acting President. 서 교수님, 대표님 좀 이쪽 옆으로 조금 더 가라고 하세요.
Welcome everyone. Can you hear me? Am I loud enough? Let me know how much you love Cpac, everyone. Are we happy? There we go. Thank you for being here at Cpac for our third annual International Summit. Before you have representatives from many of the countries that we're involved in grassroots activism. And what we have come to realize as we've traveled the world is that our democracies are facing the same challenges. Our democracies have problems with basic fundamental questions of government respecting our rights and preventing outside agitators and globalists and evil regimes like in Iran or in China from illegally and inappropriately manipulating their political systems. With me today, I have many fine, outstanding board members, and we want to kick off the conversation. I'm going to kick it off with Gordon Chang. How many of you love Gordon Chang?
고단창과 시작하고 있습니다.
You know, he's very humble, but he's a very big deal. I don't know if you know this. You know this, Andrew Cooper. Gordon, there's no more important place on the globe or tougher neighborhood than the area around the CCP-controlled China. Tell us what you think is at stake in Asia and bring in our Asian partners to have a conversation about what's going on in Asia.
America's enemy is China. And China poses a threat to the U.S., but let's remember, Russia is a threat, North Korea is a threat, Iran is a threat, but they're really threats because China backs them. China gives them the strength to attack the United States and to attack freedom and democracy around the world. Now, we're very fortunate to have strong partners in Asia. And let me start with Jay Aiba, who in 2017 hosted the first international Cpac. Jay, in 2017, Japan was a mess. You knew that. You hosted the summit. And then today, we have a strong Japan with a dominant prime minister who stands for freedom and democracy, Tahichi Sinai. Could you just talk to us for a few moments how Japan made that transition from 2017 when it was a mess to 2026 when it's so strong?
이름을 같이 하는다는 사람이죠. 고든창은 그 CPAC의 보드 멤버입니다.
今ゴードンちゃんが言ってくれたように本当に日本は苦労しましたけれども、安倍さんも暗殺されたりしましたけれども、高市さんのジャパンイズバックという発言、それから中国に対する力強い態度、このことによって今トランプとの日米関係非常に良くなっていると思います。
So we definitely had a really hard time, but
Can you speak up a little bit?
But the President Takaichi her strong opinion against China, as well as our relationship with the.
Closer. Yeah, closer. Sorry, shout. Don't be loud.
Sorry about that.
I know there's a lot of excitement, but we really need it to be a little quieter in the back.
A mother of 5 children is taking charge.
That's right. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we definitely had their hard time back then, but now with the new Prime Minister, Ms. Takaichi, her strong opinion against China, as well as our relationship with the Mr. President here, so now we're gaining the power again. So as Takaichi said, the Japan is back. That's where we're standing.
Jay, where is Japan going to go in the future under Prime Minister Takaichi?
日本はアジアのリーダーとして、アメリカと組みながらこの中国の覇権を抑えつつ、アジアのリーダーとして大きく他のアジアとの協調の中で繁栄を目指していく、これが日本の未来像です。
So, as a leader of the Asia, we're trying to still work together, but leading whole Asia and connecting with the United States to regain the power.
Well, thank you, Jay, for being such a strong partner for Cpac and for freedom.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
America is blessed by not only a strong Japan partner, but a strong partner in Korea. We have an alliance forged in blood. We go together. And today, we have Prime Minister Wong here with us. Prime Minister, in Korea today, there are many disturbing developments because the government is leftist. Can you explain to us what is happening in Korea?
Prime Minister 황교안.
네, 황교안입니다. 먼저 인사드리겠습니다. 반갑습니다.
I'm Hakyoan. I'd like to say thank you, everyone.
대한민국은 미국과 각별한 관계를 갖고 있는 혈맹입니다.
Korea has a special relationship with the United States. We have alliance forged in blood.
그런데 지금 대한민국이 굉장히 큰 위기에 처해 있습니다. 좌파 때문에 그렇습니다.
However, South Korea is facing a crisis. This is because of the leftist government.
좌파 공산 세력과 싸우고 있는데 그 핵심에는 부정선거가 있습니다.
They're fighting a war against the left communism. And at the core, this is perpetrated by election fraud.
이런 이중적인 위기를 극복해내기 위해서 온 국민과 함께 애를 쓰고 있습니다. 미국 그리고 서방의 모든 제국들과의 협력을 바랍니다.
So in this fight against anti-state forces and election fraud, we need collaboration, cooperation, close alliance with the United States and the world.
그 중요한 위기 중에 하나를 만들어가고 있는 것은 중국입니다. 북한과 중국이 대한민국 무너뜨리는 과정에 있지만 우리는 반드시 싸워 이길 것입니다.
One of the greatest threats against South Korea is not only North Korea but China. And we are fighting to protect South Korea against Chinese and North Korean forces together with the United States.
미국 그리고 자유 진영과 끝까지 함께할 것입니다. 파이팅!
We will go together until the end with the United States and the free world. We are together.
We are together, and because we are strong and united with our partners from Korea and our partners from Japan, it means that freedom will fight in Asia. And Matt, before I turn this over, let's remember what Victor Havel said. He said that communism is against liberty, communism is against faith, and communism is against life. And that's why freedom will prevail.
So it's also why Gordon Chang is leading our efforts at Cpac with a new center to defeat communism.
And that's not just communism in Asia, it's communism all over the world, and sadly, communism in America, where too many crazed politicians are increasingly embracing this idea of Marxism or the euphemism of socialism. Mercedes, it will come as no surprise that the rest of the Latin Americans have not showed up yet, but they'll be here at any moment. I'm just so certain. But speak to us about our work in Central and South America, our important Cpacs we've had down there, and what's up.
And I will say, as the Latina Cuban American, when Matt and I got married, we had to put the wedding 30 minutes before so that the Cubans can show up on time, okay?
And they still didn't.
And they didn't show up on time. But it's a great honor to be here. I have to say, the International Summit continues to grow. It's really, truly amazing when we started it just a few years ago. But for us, it's very personal. My father was a political prisoner in Cuba for 7 years under the Fidel Castro dictatorship. And so for us, we know personally the atrocities of communism, the atrocities of these dictatorships that have taken the rights and the properties of these innocent individuals, including my family. But in Latin America, it has been an important role for us to be involved in that. We did Cpac, we've done Cpac Mexico, we did Cpac Paraguay, we've done Cpac Argentina with the great Leon, the lion, Javier Milei, who has been really been a fighter against communism. Viva la libertad, carajo, and watching President Trump and his team work so hard to not only take Maduro out, who had oppressed the Venezuelan people for so long and put Venezuela in the right direction with the great help of Ambassador Rick Grenell, a special envoy for special missions, and now looking at what they're doing, putting pressure on the Cuban government in a very, I say, creative way to see if we can see change finally after 67 years in Cuba. We're making great advances there. We have seen so many victories down in Latin America, finally, in places like Honduras, in places like Bolivia, because the Latin Americans, they want freedom. They see America. They want prosperity. And they want to know that they can build their lives in their own countries, in their homelands, instead of having to deal with these leftist governments that have destroyed so much of their societies. One of our dear friends, President Jose Antonio Cast, also won down in Chile. So we've had great success in Latin America. Cpac has been a part of elevating these great leaders in that region, and we continue to invest in Latin America because we need a strong partnership in Latin America. Why? Because we don't want China, we don't want Russia, and we don't want Iran in our backyard. We want to be able to trade with Latin America, have strong relationships with them, and make sure that they have strong democracies so that their people can flourish.
아메리카에 영향을 미치고 있고 큰 성공을 거두고 있다라고 얘기를 하고 있습니다. 이제 중국, 러시아, 이란 자작학관이 감사합니다. 저희 대부분이 메인 보드입니다. Cpac의 대부분이 지금 핵심이 보드 멤버입니다. 가운데 있고 각국 정상과 Cpac의 각 나라들의
I do want to add one more thing. I know Eduardo Bolsonaro is due to be here. Eduardo, yes, that's right. They're in a very tough race in Brazil against the leftist Lula, and I think President Lula. Flavio Bolsonaro will be speaking on the Cpac main stage, who is the leading candidate right now in Brazil. And Cpac will be very involved in helping Flavio down in Brazil. And we're also looking to have Cpac Colombia to take out Petro, President Petro as well. Again, a leftist, corrupt, drug cartel type of president, and really have a right-wing candidate win there in Colombia as well.
So when we started this voyage doing Cpacs overseas, as we said, Chairman Aiba was the very first person to agree to do it, and then the next person to agree to do it was Andrew Cooper. Andrew, yeah, you need to get that microphone. And then you recruited this guy by the name of Warren Mundine to help you run the organization, because running a Cpac in a country, you know, as we say in America, it's not beanbag, it's not easy. You've been canceled, you've been sued, you've had to like find new venues in like 5 days for the event, but yet still, despite so many left-wingers in your government, you're making progress. Give us an update from down under.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. And hello, Cpac. We come from the land down under. Yeah, no, look, Australia went woke and left during the COVID period, and sadly, Australia remains left, but not quite as woke, so we are making progress. We have a conservative government in one of the main states, and we have a leadership now that for the first time ever Cpac endorses. So for the first time in the life of Cpac Australia, Cpac has endorsed the leadership of the three main conservative parties, and I believe we have great aspiration to take back our country. Because you know what? The leftists that run it at the moment, they're running it with 35% of the popular vote. It's they are not representative. What you see and read about Australia and what our government is doing is not representative of the people of Australia. The people of Australia are just like you. We work hard, we take on individual responsibility, we're a frontier nation, and we like to fight for freedom. And we'll continue to fight for freedom, Matt. We'll continue.
Andrew, does anybody in this room like the rhinos? What, have you not had your coffee? That doesn't sound like a very good Cpac. What do you think about rhinos? You know, in Australia, what do you call rhinos?
The leading party is the Liberal Party, and one of the enemies of conservatism are the linos within the Conservative Party.
Yeah, so they have their version of the rhino. It's the lino. And Warren, you played, I'm very proud of the role that Cpac in Australia played in pushing back against this idea that one race of people should have extra special constitutional rights over another set of people. You had this fight, which we've been fighting all this insanity in America, but they tried to change your constitution to say that certain ethnic groups were going to be super or extra constitutional.
Yeah, sadly, Matt, you're right. In 2023, we had a referendum which would have put in our constitution the idea of race, where one group of people got more privileges than other people. It's a campaign we fought really hard against, because we believe, like the Declaration of Independence, and we're all people, we're all God's children, and it doesn't matter what your colour, what your big background is.
Warren, it's not because we don't love you. I don't know. Hey, pass him another microphone.
So we kicked it off, and when we kicked the campaign off in 2022, we were behind in the polling. But I had great faith in the Australian people. I had great faith in the battle of the fair go. That's an Australian background. Everyone gets a fair go. Everyone's treated as equal people. And we were able to swing it around, and when the vote finally come in, we massacred them. And it was great to see that we got the referendum defeated, that we still have equality in Australia, and we still have the freedoms and liberties and opportunities for all.
Well done. Can you imagine if we had a BLM amendment in our Constitution, how disastrous that would be? That was essentially what Australia was facing. And it was Cpac that gave the oxygen to the opposition. All the sports stars, all the movie stars, this polling was overwhelming if this was going to happen, and you guys believe that you can make a difference, and you changed the history, the course of history in your country. So thank you for your wonderful efforts.
Thank you very much. But you're right, it was all the elites, it was all the sports stars, and of course all the movie stars, all these people getting out there and running the campaign against us. So it was a very strong campaign by the Conservatives, by Cpac, We put a lot of energy into it. You know, I was doing about 2 or 3 states today. I used to wake up in a hotel somewhere and I didn't even know where I was. But we got out there and you know, this is what we got to do. You know, like in America, you've got to trust the American people. The American people, they know what they want. They want their freedoms, they want their liberties. And that's what we did with the Australian people. They want their freedoms, they want the democracy, they wanted everyone treated equal. And we went out and spoke to them, and they come behind us in droves.
Well, you know, it's a fine Australian tradition to wake up in hotels and not know where you are. So that was very good, Warren. But it was for a good cause. Ambassador Rick Brunel, thank you for being on the board of Cpac and all your great service to President Trump through 2 terms. This term is going way too fast for my liking. Time moves quickly, especially when you're not a kid anymore. You were the ambassador, President Trump's ambassador to Germany. Look what's happened with our European colleagues. You know, we started with Hungary, and now we have so many countries represented here today. Maybe you can lead a conversation about what's going on currently in Europe.
Well, thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. I think the one thing that's on people's mind that I keep hearing about when it comes to Europe is the Iran war right now. And how is our European allies, NATO allies, responding to what President Trump has clearly said is a threat to the United States, a threat to America, and yet we're finding ourselves with our NATO allies not being able to share a base, not being able to land, not being able to operationalize. We've got Spain coming out and directly contradicting us. There's a big conversation in America about NATO. The amount of money that we give, the fact that we aren't all sharing the burden the way that we should be. So I would put it out on the table to our European friends to ask, what is the state of NATO in light of what's going on with Iran? Maybe we start with the former Prime Minister.
Well, thank you. Certainly the situation in Britain is under socialist rule. And it's not just socialist rule. We've actually got a government who wants to appease the Islamists. That's why they've sat on the fence over Iran. That's why they've failed to offer up bases to be used on strikes against this appalling regime, because they are concerned about what's going on with their voter base. There is a Islamist voter base in Britain, and that is a pretty serious situation. I think the other issue is that European countries have been caught asleep as far as energy is being concerned. I mean, we've been committing economic suicide by not fracking, by not drilling for oil and gas in the North Sea, and by instead supporting renewable energy, which is intermittent. And we have left ourselves very exposed to energy shocks, and Western Europe in particular has expected the United States to bail us out. We haven't spent enough on defense, we haven't made sure we have our energy security, and we have expected to be bailed out. And I think there is a growing realization that that is not a state of affairs that can continue. But my real fear in Britain is we are now headed for a financial crisis, because energy prices are going up. Britain has the most exposed debt as far as the bond market is concerned. Our country is deindustrialized because our energy prices are so high, and we also haven't spent enough on our defense. And there was the recent fiasco of when the Iranian strikes took place. Britain was not able to get a warship out to the Middle East. This is the country that successfully defended the Falkland Islands in the 1980s under Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, and was able to send a task force to the Falkland Islands. Now we find ourselves in a position of not being able to defend our own bases that are actually within Europe.
Was that political or financial?
It's both. Frankly, our country has spent far too much on the welfare state. We haven't grown our economy. We've had politicians that have followed fashionable edicts about things like net zero. We've had an energy crisis for many years. We've relied on imported gas when we could have been fracking our own gas. But it's also political. It's also political that we have a Prime Minister now who does not know which side he is on. In fact, you might say he's batting for the other side. He is talking about rules against Islamophobia, against what he calls anti-Muslim hatred. We have a serious problem, which we're going to be talking about later, in the growth of Sharia law in our country. And that is what he is looking at. He is looking at the voter base in Britain and trying to appease that voter base, rather than thinking about the future of the Western Alliance and the future of Western civilization. And frankly, you see the same from the leadership in Brussels. So we have leadership, particularly in Western Europe. I think our Eastern European friends are the exception. But in Western Europe, who fundamentally don't support Western civilization. That is how serious it has got. And this is why we need movements like Cpac in Great Britain to be able to take on this elite who failed our country.
We're also very lucky to have former Prime Minister Morawiecki from Poland. I know the Poles have been an incredible partner with America. Can you talk a little bit about, in light of the Iran issue that's unfolding, because I know for Americans the NATO question is a very real and vibrant question right now. What is the conversation like in Poland? And obviously, I don't think you're going to be able to answer the Iran question without also talking about Ukraine, because it's right there in your neighborhood. So maybe give us a little bit on both.
Well, thank you very much for having me here, and it's a great honor to be here again with you, my friends, Dallas, Cpac, and I can tell you that speaking for many Poles, we really believe in the values of freedom, national sovereignty, responsibility, reciprocity as well, and our country is this one which never surrenders. So the future is bright ahead of us. I can tell you this. For your question, we look at this, of course, through the lens of what is going on in Central Europe. And you might think that maybe Russia could be pulled away from China, and thanks to this, the United States could refocus on Indo-Pacific, could go offshore balance. I look at this a little bit in a different way. Russia is a junior partner to China, very strongly attached to China, and I don't believe the reverse Nixon, reverse Kissinger might happen. Hence, I look at what is happening in Iran through the lens of this most important partner to China, which is Russia. And this axis of evil, Russia, North Korea, China, Iran, are really very close to each other. And right now, because of the war in Iran, the barrel of oil, of course, is higher, is very expensive, and Russia is earning lots of money. And this is their only source of money, because their economy is a basket case economy these days. So rather than believing, you, my American friends, that Russia can really be detached from China, I think that we should enhance our efforts to support Ukraine and support President Trump to work out a viable solution in Ukraine. And through this, Russia could be weakened, really. It could be weakened. And, you know, please remember that many Iranian Shaheeds, precision drones, were used by Russia on Ukraine. So this is so very tightly connected with each other. So I look at this, at my part of the region, my region, my part of Europe, through the Russian, Ukrainian, Iranian lens. And I wish that the United States is so successful in Iran, because if not, Russia will feel encouraged to attack not only the Baltic states, maybe my country. It is attacking all the time my country through the hybrid attacks. And this is how I view the connectivity between what's going on in Iran, the prolonged war supporting Russia, and through this, China is also kind of, might be a winning party of this war. On the other side, if Iran strikes any kind of deal and the barrel of oil goes down, economy goes back on its normal path, then Russia is very badly hit by the war in Ukraine and sanction packages and the sanctions imposed by President Trump. So I'm cautiously optimistic that Ukraine will weaken Russia, and through this, China is going to be weakened as well. This is the composition of different elements, different parts of this jigsaw as I see these days. Thank you.
Continuing on with the Polish view, Michael and Adrian, if you all want to jump in, I'd love to really dig down on the idea that NATO seems to be, in Europe, something that is being undermined, specifically on Iran. Is that view shared throughout Poland?
Well, we are citizens of the relatively new NATO member states. We are Polish citizens, proud Polish citizens, and we are happy to be a part of the strongest alliance in the world. As we are speaking right now, we are being watched by our TV station, Telewizja Republika. We can shout out to our viewers, tens of thousands, millions of viewers.
Hello, Poland.
I will ask my cameraman to show the beautiful stage and beautiful Cpac scene here. But
so can I just say one thing? Michael's very shy, and he's not egotistical. He is actually his wife is the leading journalist in Poland. He's the number 2, so he and I have a lot in common because our wives always outshine us. And TV Republika is the Newsmax or Fox News of Poland. So congratulations, Michael, on all your media success.
Thank you, Matt. Mercy, thank you for your friendship. Yes, actually, Kasia is running her show right now, so we are now technically on Kasia's programs. Boom. But coming back to your point, we are citizens of the state that used to fight during the communist time against the communist regime. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki personally was one of the figures. He was a young man back then. He was actively fighting communist regime, Soviet regime in my home country. Mercy knows this story very well, so it's very awkward that we are actually talking about the coming back of communism, and we are in the beautiful state of Texas, and in the United States this is actually a political issue, regaining of the communist power actually within the United States. And I'm speaking about it because NATO was formed to fight the Russian and communist imperialism. This is the very reason for which NATO existed, and this is the reason for which in Poland overwhelmingly, I think like there is 70 or 80 or even 90% of support for NATO in Poland. The reason is very simple. For us, NATO means freedom. NATO means the great reality of Ronald Reagan, the former Prime Minister of the United States, who actually brought the freedom to the world. And we were thinking back then that we will never be a part of this free world. So our message to America, our message to the free world is, take care of the true values and of the tools that we do have to secure those values. And NATO definitely is one of those tools. So if we are speaking about freedoms, and if we are speaking about those fundamental values of the West that Madam Prime Minister was talking about, we are talking not only about the security and preserving our heritage against the communist oppression, but we are talking also about some fundamental freedoms like freedom of speech, freedom of expression, political freedoms. As we speak right now, our friend from our TV station, also a former member of anti-communist movement, Adam Borowski, is facing imprisonment for words he said about the ruling pro-European globalist leftist power elite. We have a former prosecutor general being in prison right now, being in Italy under political asylum. This is the reality that we may all face. We are after 2 successful terms of conservative government of Prime Minister Morawiecki and PIS party. But right now, the globalist liberal left is after all of those conservative activists and also media. We, as a TV station, are right now being under constant economical and political attack. And as we speak, our CEO and editor-in-chief is being listened to by the prosecutor. You know why? Because we dared to organize with Mercy and Matt Cpac in Poland. So the international platform which Cpac is so strongly needed to preserve our values. And this is the reason why we need to create international relations between conservatives, just as the globalists do. And to do so, we also need a global international conservative TV station that I hope we will create with Cpac, with Mercy and Matt. Thank you, Richard.
So on what Michael have said, we wanted to invite you to Cpac Poland this year, because nothing is going to stop us, as you know already. We've launched Cpac Poland initiative this year that significantly helped conservative President Nawrocki win the election. So this was a very important step towards maintaining the conservative powers in Poland, but we have a new chapter that we will have to win upon, which is the parliament elections that are coming up next year. The international forum, which is raising up the common threats, the common challenges, but also common opportunities that we have, is very important. And for Poland, Cpac Poland will be the initiative, the major conservative international initiative in our country. So you're already very welcome to join us for Cpac Poland this coming fall.
Awesome. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you. Moving to our friends in Romania, I'd love to hear your perspective about this question, and of course, I think what we're hearing over and over is the problems of Brussels. I'd love for you're a little bit immune from it, so I'd love your perspective.
Happy to be in Cpac, wherever Cpac is, in Poland, in Hungary, in Australia, in Japan, and here in the United States. Well, as Prime Minister Morawiecki and Michał Rachon said, we experienced one way of so-called heaven, the Soviet heaven, the communist dictatorship. And unfortunately, from some points of view, we are treated in the same way from the European Commission that behaves like the Soviet Commission, like the Soviet commissars, dictating and imposing rules. And we lived too much under dictatorship, under the Soviet occupation, and we do not want it anymore. This is why when we are talking about dictatorial regimes and we are seeing the regime of mullahs and ayatollahs, we are seeing the ugly face of authoritarianism and of totalitarianism right now. We have 3 prime ministers here at this table the former Prime Minister of Poland, of Great Britain, and of South Korea. All three, and Australia, all three countries, all three nations fought and know how it is to fight for your freedom. In Romania, we have a problem with democracy, and this problem expands to all the 27 countries in the European Union. In Romania, 1 year and 3 months ago, the elections were annulled. Yes, you heard it correctly. It's not a country in Belarus, it's not in Iran, it's not in the Middle East. In the European Union, we had annulled elections. The rightful president of Romania, who would have won the elections, was dismissed and was denied of his electoral rights. We passed through hell in May last year when I was the runner-up in the presidential elections. And this is a phenomenon that is growing and growing in the EU Commission, and we are looking towards the elections in Hungary, and we are seeing the interventions from Brussels, and we are hoping that they will stop sending billions and billions of euros just to impose their puppet government like they did last year in Romania. So yes, Madam Prime Minister, we have a common fight in Eastern Europe and Western Europe to save the free world and the Western civilization. We in the East, either if it's in Poland, in Hungary, in Slovenia, where former Prime Minister Jensa had a very good result last weekend, in Slovakia or in the Czech Republic, we are all fighting to keep common sense, to keep the Christian civilization and the roots of our continent, and we will prevail because we here in Cpac are fighters. Congratulations for the great work that you are doing.
Our friends from Italy are here as well. So Antonio Giordano, can you give us a perspective from Italy and maybe talk to us a little bit about what many Americans think you have a rock star leader in Italy? Yeah. Perhaps one of the biggest rock stars in all of Europe. Maybe give us a little insight.
First of all, the greetings of Georgia to Mercy and Matt for organizing this amazing gathering of conservative people, not only in the United States, and I was here since 2021 for the first time, and every time, twice in a year in the United States, but also across the world. And this is something that gives to the free world, the freedom, a new exciting opportunity to be in the middle of the people. Then I want to say something, I want to give you a bit of optimism because Europe honestly is changing, is shifting towards the right. It's not a quick movement, is always not fast, but Europe is moving. Is moving because is a big part of this change is the effort of Georgia, but now Europe changed the politics for immigration. Until now we had an immigration that was not controlled, changed the policies about the Green Deal that is actually a green dream. It's not possible to continue like it was in the past years, because when the things go well, it's very easy to dream, but then hard periods are coming and it is not anymore possible. So something is changing. This morning was appointed as special envoy for the freedom of the religion in the European Commission. So this is a very good signal. We are not fast, it's true, but courageous leaders are moving, are doing very good things, and starting from my president in the CR party, Mateusz Morawiecki, that did very courageous activity during the COVID, during the starting of the Ukraine war. And I think that this is the right start for enhancing our friendship. We are very linked to the American people. We are very friend with the American people. We recognize in the alliance between Europe, Italy in particular, and the United States the greatest value of our history. So I want to say that you have believed in us because we are improving our expenses in the NATO alliance. It's not fast, as I said, but something is happening. And we need time to improve our ability to take decisions. The truth is that you Americans do not understand exactly how Europe works because we are not the United States of Europe. We are 27 different states, we talk different languages, we have different cultures, but in the friendship with the American people, I think that we have the right path to the future.
And we do not want to be the United States of Europe. We are against any project of centralized Europe. We like it this way. And our fathers and grandfathers, after the Second World War, and when the Berlin Wall fell, were looking towards the United States with hope because we wanted democracy. This is why we have a statement from Cpac that we will adopt here, and supporting pro-freedom movements and democratic leaders is what we need also in the European Union, because we have a problem with democracy.
One of my favorite parts of Europe, as people know, is the Balkan region. If you haven't been, you should go. The people are amazing. They love America. We're lucky enough to have Zilka, who is a member of the presidency from Bosnia-Herzegovina. You all have made a lot of moves this year under the Trump administration. Why don't you give us a little perspective from your region?
Thank you. Thank you. It's really a pleasure to be here and also to be with people who share the same values. And coming from the Western Balkans means that actually that we have very complicated history and very complicated past. So I would say that now things are getting better, and myself coming or being elected from Republika Srpska into presidency of Bosnia-Herzegovina, we feel more like, free to speak about the things that we were not able to speak before, and this mainly because of this new administration led by President Trump. When President Trump said no more nation building, we were very happy in Republika Srpska. When he said we want to protect Christianity, then we were very happy in Republika Srpska. And we appreciate all the things actually America is doing nowadays, and that relaxed the situation there. But my story, as coming from Bosnia-Herzegovina, is very complicated because, this is very complicated environment that we live in. Bosnia-Herzegovina has a special link to the U.S. because, Bosnia, as we see today, was established basically by the United States of America, through the Dayton Agreement that was drafted here 30 years ago. And it is a highly decentralized state, composed of two entities, where we have presidency of Bosnia-Herzegovina, it's three-member presidency. I'm elected 49% of the territory, the other two members in the 51%. But, you know, the situation nowadays is complicated for one more thing. You speak about democracy, how to protect democracy, what the challenges are, what Europe is nowadays. But, you know, Bosnia is the last colony in Europe, and you know actually that we have high representative. But this is something like, you know, that was envisaged as a position by the Dayton Agreement, but not like, you know, in the sense as we see it today. When I say that, you know, I mean that actually that person, although that person was never authorized by the Dayton Agreement, you know, drafted in America, to impose legislation is someone who imposes legislation bypassing parliamentary procedure, bypassing our parliament, you know. That's the person, like, you know, who could impose, who even suspended constitution in order to create a government to his liking. All these things are things that you can never hear, like, you know. So it's very precious for me when I can speak about these things, you know. Many people spoke about Bosnia without knowing anything about Bosnia, without knowing anything about, like, actually the situation there, without knowing anything about this being colony, you know. So that's why I say that we feel like, you know, free to speak nowadays, especially being in this America, which you can respect highly because of this administration. And all these developments that happened last year, and I was part of that, as you know, was actually that America changed completely its approach towards Republika Srpska as part of Bosnia and Herzegovina. There were, like, you know, tens of people being sanctioned, tens of business entities being sanctioned, like, you know. So actually to have a partnership with, because we appreciate it very much, and it's because America nowadays has this realistic approach to the Balkan countries, and it's very important for us. Speaking about democracy, I mean, I cannot speak about that when you have a foreigner who thinks that he can impose legislation, because that's the person, now it is a German guy, like, you know, who even altered our criminal code in order to oust a democratically elected president of Republika Srpska from power, who actually ordered that some extraordinary elections were organized, and, you know, this is what we had organized. Then first, he didn't like the results, and then they said it was fraud, and we need to repeat the results, elections. Then we repeated the elections and won again, like, you know, and we intend to win again, and we intend to cooperate really nicely and closely to this administration of the United States of America. God bless.
Well, that's just another situation where Brussels is beating up on so many, and we've tried to push back, and I think that we are making progress. I didn't realize how bad it was, but we will definitely follow up on that.
Let me just say that we don't have really interlocutors in Brussels. Like, you know, I can understand my colleagues coming from Europe, and I understand actually the challenges that they are facing nowadays. But Europe doesn't have leadership. Europe doesn't have a strategy. Europe doesn't have a plan. And that is the most important thing where the difference is between the current US and the EU.
Nagor, we just got back from Cpac in Hungary. Did any of you read or see the news from Cpac in Hungary? So, thank you. We want to give a shout out to the Hungarians, the first European country to say, hey, we want to do a Cpac on the continent. Viktor Orban, your prime minister, is in a tough race. He's been in power for 16 years, but he's really gotten under the skin of the folks in Brussels and the globalists. First question is, has Cpac Hungary had a positive influence on what's happening on the ground in Hungary? Number two, will your prime minister win?
Thank you, Matt, first of all, for having me on stage and for coming to Hungary. And it means a lot to have you guys there in Budapest. It had a huge impact, and we're so grateful for your friendship. Also, Prime Minister Orban mentioned in his speech
that was pretty nice, actually,
how he appreciates your Christian worldview and your Christian policies. So Cpac means a lot to Hungary. And yes, we are in the middle of a fight. On April 12th, we're going to have general elections in Hungary, and the globalists want to remove our government. When Prime Minister Orban first came to Dallas to speak at Cpac a few years ago, he said, the globalists can go to hell. I came to Texas.
That's right.
And now he's fighting this fight and they want to remove him because he represents not just a theory, but conservatism and common sense in practice. That you have to defend your families, you have to defend your nation, you have to defend your history. It's what President Trump does in the US, and that's what we do in Hungary as well, together with Cpac Hungary and the entire conservative community in Hungary. And I know Miklós Szanto wanted to be here, the head of Cpac Hungary, but he couldn't come because we're in the middle of a great fight. And probably our elections will matter a lot, not just for Hungary, but also for the rest of Europe. Because Hungary has one of the very few real conservative governments. It's become really a conservative laboratory in the past few years on how to support families, how to keep your nation great, and it's a source of inspiration also for other nations. That's why they want to remove us from government. And we want to work with you guys, with our friends across the world who think that common sense should prevail. So thank you again for all your support.
Thank you, Magor. Good luck to you in less than 20 days.
And we're winning.
We're winning.
Big.
Better win. So I often say, even when you go to Europe, they say Europe's dead sometimes. You know, Europe's best days are behind it. My view is the heart of Europe has, don't be offended,
내일이 아닙니다. 모레입니다, 모레.
to the east of Europe,
모레에
where
연설하십니다.
people hold those same values that made all of these nations great. So we go from Hungary, Georgia, we go to Germany, where Antonio and others have said, maybe with a little more time we can make things better. And certainly Prime Minister Maloney is doing so many great things. How much time do we have, especially in Germany?
First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. And I hope that this year we're going to succeed to welcome you with the Cpac in Germany. We are working hard on that. It's not going to be easy since we have right now a chancellor who is unfortunately continuing the left policy of Mrs. Merkel and damaging the country horribly. We are missing Ambassador Rick Grenell, who was a great ambassador during the time of Donald Trump 01. And I think that nobody knows Germany situation, political situation. You allowed me to say Rick, my friend Rick Grenell, and we're really missing you. Number two, we don't have an American ambassador in Germany. And then you see how the current administration is feeling about Germany right now. And let me tell you, Germany right now is a mess. It is a mess. It was a mess just 10, 15 years ago, but now to the policy of Merkel on continuation of the policy of Mr. Merz is moving in absolutely wrong direction. And what is not understandable, that in Germany politically we have a conservative majority. The CDU used to be conservative party. The AfD basically took the whole program of CDU, and we have this politically majority, conservative majority, but Mr. Merz, together with the socialists, is making left policy, and this is horrible. He is supporting by the government-sponsored media, and unfortunately the media in Germany is very well equipped financially, since it is obligatory for every German to pay 20 euros every month for this BS that we are getting sold by the German media. there are two programs. They are totally anti-Trump, and they are brainwashing German public. This is horrible. And unfortunately, this mandatory payment is really mandatory. If you don't pay as a normal citizen this money, you can go to the jail. Can you imagine? You have to pay for left media, green left media, obligatorily, lot of money, and if you don't pay this, then you go to the jail. And I was talking to my Polish friends. By the way, I was born in Poland. I'm an American citizen. I'm very proud American citizen. I was born in Poland, and I was by Cpac in Poland, as you know, as we did support Mr. Nawrocki as the president of Poland. They've been successful with your help to get a conservative president in Poland. I was talking to the Polish friends, how is the situation in Poland? And they told me, yes, we have these obligatory payments, but we don't pay. So I said, well, what do you mean you don't pay? People are not paying. So I said, come on, so we don't go to the jail, cannot be criminalized. Polish people are different than the Germans. Go to Germany, have to pay.
That's just the low quality of the public media is the reason why Polish people do not pay. So tell your German friends, just don't pay.
Well,
if it's up.
We are trying to do this, but unfortunately, if you have the situation that police might come to your house and tell you if you don't pay, you go to the jail, you have to be very courageous.
George, there are 80 million Germans. If you don't pay, they will not get 80 million people to prison. No way. They're not going to do it.
So just tell me very quickly, finish, Matt. We need you in Germany. Please shake up Germany. Please shake up this horrible situation with the firewall. What is a bullshit, this firewall? I'm a construction engineer by training, and I have to tell you, firewall is not protecting from the fire. Firewall is only postponing the fire, but it's not going to keep the fire away. So I hope that the firewall in Germany is gonna go away very quickly. And please come to Germany as soon as you can.
The deal. The deal. Who's coming with me to Germany? There we go. Elise, holding you to that. Okay, I want to thank you all for your comments. We have work to do now. We're going to quickly work through some Cpac resolutions, which will make an impact here, but also in your countries. But let me just summarize very quickly. After 7 or 8 years of doing these Cpacs around the world, here's what we all share collectively in most cases. Number one, we have a massive media problem, and overseas, the number one voice to know what's going on in America is, guess what? CNN International. Yeah. We have good news. There's a new owner of CNN. That could be changing. The center-right parties have weakened. The rhinos and the linos and whatever we call the Tories, the Chinos, have caused great problems because they moved to the left. New parties are cropping up in all these places. I say in America, the Republican Party should send Donald Trump a thank you note. Because if he decided to organize outside the Republican Party, I believe the Republican Party would be in the same position of weakness as so many of your parties are. And the right won't work together. Those who think they're in the center-right party won't work with parties who are far-right. They'd rather work with the left. How insane that is. And conservatives in these countries need to unite the right. We have a funding deficit and disparity. George Soros and the globalist billionaires are outfunding us in country after country after country. The next thing is the impact of a strong America. The impact of Donald Trump, the positive impact that's had on the desire to heal some of these political problems. And of course, the need for grassroots activism. You've all said it. You want Cpac in your countries because for whatever reason these nonprofits haven't developed over the course of the last several decades, maybe unlike in America where we've had that kind of success. So we need the grassroots to lead the charge. And finally, lawfare. As with the jailing of Jair Bolsonaro, the problems in South Korea with President Yoon, all of this idea that politics has turned into a legal death match, where if you lose, somehow you lose your freedom, not just your political office, and we have to have a strategy on that. And so the first resolution we want to read, and if I could get the audience to listen because we want you to participate in these resolutions, concerns Brazil. Mercedes.
Cpac condemns weaponization of lawfare in Brazil and the unprecedented denial of a U.S. diplomat's visit to President Jair Bolsonaro. Cpac strongly condemns the ongoing weaponization of lawfare by Brazil's President Lula and Supreme Court Justice Alexandre de Moraes against former President Jair Bolsonaro and the Brazilian people. What we are witnessing is not justice, it is a tyrannical abuse of judicial power designed to silence political opposition, crush free speech, and rig upcoming elections in favor of the Lula regime. Justice de Moraes has turned Brazil's judiciary into a political weapon, imposing unjust convictions, censoring orders, asset freezes, and restrictions that have turned President Bolsonaro into a political prisoner. This is the very definition of lawfare, the malicious use of legal institutions to achieve what could not be won at the ballot box.
That's right. I heard some cheers from some Brazilians. To our Cpac representatives, please signal by saying aye if you support the resolution. How about the observers in the audience? Do you agree with this resolution on Brazil? Aye. There we go. It passes unanimously. Former Prime Minister Liz Truss, would you please read the next resolution on Sharia law?
Cpac strongly condemns Sharia law and its growing influence in America and around the world. Cpac unequivocally condemns Sharia law as a barbaric, theocratic and totalitarian system that is fundamentally incompatible with individual liberty and Western civilization. Sharia denies equal rights by prescribing cruel and unusual punishments, including stoning, amputation and flogging, and seeks to replace secular democracy and constitutional governance with Islamic religious rule. We are alarmed by its growing global influence and its creeping encroachments around the world, including in the West. Their tactics include parallel legal institutions, cultural demands, foreign law in national courts, Sharia-compliant finance, and unchecked immigration from Sharia-adherent societies. Most disturbingly, segments of the political left and even some establishment figures have excused, downplayed, or embraced Sharia under the banners of multiculturalism, diversity, and false claims of Islamophobia. This hypocrisy betrays core conservative values, endangers free speech, women's rights, and religious liberty, and labels legitimate national security concerns as bigotry. As we meet in Texas, we acknowledge that the Lone Star State has become the frontline defense against this threat. In the March 2026 GOP primary, Texas voters delivered an overwhelming mandate by approving Proposition 10 with nearly 95% support, declaring that Texas should prohibit Sharia law. We warn that if incremental Sharia influence through proposed enclaves, special accommodations, radical networks, or boiling the frog tactics is allowed to take hold in Texas, the entire nation will soon be at risk.
Cpac stands firmly and unapologetically against any imposition of Sharia law in freedom-loving countries.
Cpac representatives, please signal your support by saying aye. And observers, do you agree with this resolution? God bless Texas. Veronica, a former Texan, maybe a current Texan and Cpac board member, please read the next resolution condemning Christian persecution and anti-Semitism.
Cpac applauds President Trump's courageous decision to redesignate Nigeria as a country particularly concerned for severe religious freedom violations. President Trump launched divisive military action against ISIS terrorists slaughtering Christians in Nigeria, establishing a task force to eradicate anti-Christian bias, and hosting persecuted Christians from China, Cuba, Nigeria, and beyond at the White House. His powerful words at the National Prayer Breakfast and the United Nations declaring Christianity the most persecuted faith and vowing America will stand as a voice for victims have brought unprecedented attention to this underreported human rights tragedy. Wide sections of Nigeria are led by jihadists and titles which seek to wipe the globe of Christians and Jews, and their vile actions must be countered. It is beyond time for religious leaders to be more vocal and aggressive in countering this evil. Much more must be done. Persecution defines nations like Nigeria, China, North Korea, Pakistan, and elsewhere. Thousands killed, millions displaced, churches and synagogues burned, and believers imprisoned simply because of their faith. We urge leaders of other countries to follow President Trump's example, impose stronger sanctions on persecuting governments, increase funding for global religious freedom initiatives, and ensure military and diplomatic tools are fully deployed to protect vulnerable believers. The crisis demands urgent, escalated action. No half measures when lives and eternal souls are at stake. We are deeply committed to the broader fight for religious liberty and democracy worldwide. We strongly condemn anti-Semitism in all its forms and urge the administration to continue its resolute efforts to combat this rising hatred. We are honored that the Crown Prince of Iran, Reza Pahlavi, will be attending Cpac. A Muslim who recognizes the state of Israel and the need for religious tolerance. We stand in solidarity with the Iranian people in their courageous fight for freedom against oppression. Cpac stands ready to partner further in these vital causes. Thank you, President Trump, for leading the charge. Now let's finish the fight for freedom and faith around the world.
Cpac representatives, signal your support by saying aye. And observers, I get the honor of reading the next one about our wonderful friends in the mighty country of Hungary. Cpac endorses Viktor Orban, make the West great again, standing for God, homeland, and family against globalist wokeness. Western civilization is grappling with deep ideological conflicts and faces a stark choice. The future of our children depends on whether our civilization is shaped by the values of real men and women with deep roots in their homeland, or by international entities and leftist pressure groups that undermine our core values in the name of wokeness and subversive and subservience to corrupt globalist institutions. Will our civilization stand with God for our homelands and for our families? Or will it descend into the swamp of postmodern progressivism, devoid of a moral compass, values, and direction? Will the eternal wars of the woke empire engulf our world, or will sovereign nations find true peace through strength? Will the West succumb to the nightmare of liberal globalism, or will it stand tall and powerful in a world ordered by rational national interests and respect for sovereign nations? In the struggle for national freedom, rational order, and sovereign dignity, our allies around the globe play a pivotal role. We can only succeed if patriots from the West fight alongside their American brothers and sisters for the soul of the West. Conservatives from the Americas, Europe, and freedom lovers in all corners of the world must join this fight. Our alliance is perhaps best exemplified by the special relationship between President Trump and Prime Minister Viktor Orban, as well as the formidable partnerships within the Cpac family. Cpac, including in Hungary, has emerged as a citadel of common sense, Christian liberty, and dignity in Europe. The upcoming Hungarian elections may chart the course for the future of Europe and the transatlantic relationship. The outcome will determine whether another continental war erupts in the cradle of Western civilization or the Make the West Great Again movement ends the decades-long moral crisis and creates a world of peace, security, and reason. Therefore, we must fully and unreservedly endorse Prime Minister Viktor Orban for re-election. He's the right man for Hungary, for Europe, and the transatlantic alliance. Set an example for patriots around the globe. Cpac representatives, please signal your support by saying aye. Aye. And observers, do you agree? Aye. Okay, Mercedes.
Cpac statement supporting President Trump's leadership in the Western Hemisphere. Cpac strongly supports President Donald J. Trump's decisive leadership in restoring stability, sovereignty, and democratic accountability throughout the Western Hemisphere. After years of neglect that allowed hostile regimes, transnational criminal organizations, and foreign adversaries to expand their influence, President Trump has reasserted American strength. From confronting the socialist dictatorship in Venezuela and standing with the Cuban people to challenging the authoritarian regimes in Nicaragua and beyond, his administration has made clear that America will not surrender to tyranny, narco-terrorism, or foreign powers seeking to undermine freedom. President Trump's policies have strengthened border security, disrupted human trafficking networks, and reduced the chaos that destabilizes nations across the region. By pressuring regimes that cause mass migration through repression and economic mismanagement, while supporting pro-freedom movements and democratic leaders, his administration has addressed the root causes of instability rather than merely managing its consequences. At the same time, renewed economic partnerships grounded in fair trade, energy independence, and private sector development offer a pathway to prosperity that stands in stark contrast to the failed socialist models that have impoverished millions. Cpac supports the expanding of sanctions against corporate officials, strengthening alliances with democratic governments, and countering the growing presence of China, Iran, and other hostile actors in the region. The Monroe Doctrine's core principle that outside powers must not dominate the Americas remains as relevant today as ever. The people of the Western Hemisphere deserve freedom, security, and opportunity, not exploitation by authoritarian regimes or criminal networks.
Cpac representatives, register your support by saying aye. Aye. And those in the audience? Aye. Gordon Chang.
First, Matt, let me thank your staffers, especially Spencer Hartman and Ernesto Gonzalez, not only for helping on this resolution, but also leading the Cpac Center for Combating Communism. They are the future, and they're doing a great job. Here is the resolution. Cpac statement on combating global communism, democratic backsliding, and lawfare against free societies. Cpac warns that the world is witnessing a dangerous resurgence of communist ideology, totalitarian and authoritarian governance, and the weaponization of legal systems to silence political opposition. From the Chinese Communist Party's growing aggression abroad to the repression of dissidents in countries influenced by socialist or authoritarian models, freedom itself is under coordinated attack. Democratic backsliding, censorship, and politically motivated persecutions, lawfare, and increasingly used to neutralize opposition leaders, manipulate electoral outcomes, and erode constitutional institutions from within. Cpac expresses particular concern for frontline democracies such as South Korea, Taiwan, and other nations in the Indo-Pacific, facing sustained pressure from communist regimes and their proxies. South Korea's security and democratic resilience are vital not only for its own citizens, but for the stability of the entire region. We stand with the South Korean people and all democratic societies confronting intimidation, political polarization fueled by external actors, and attempts to undermine their institutions through disinformation, economic coercion, or judicial overreach. Around the globe, we are seeing a pattern. Elected leaders investigated, censored, or removed through politicized legal processes rather than defeated through fair elections. Independent media suppressed under the guise of regulation, and civil society constrained by bureaucratic harassment. These tactics mirror the methods long used by authoritarian regimes to maintain power while preserving a facade of legality. Cpac calls on President Trump, allied governments, and freedom-loving citizens worldwide to confront this threat with clarity and resolve. This includes strengthening defense partnerships among democratic nations, imposing costs on regimes that export repression, supporting dissidents and political prisoners, and defending the principles of free speech, rule of law, and national sovereignty. The fight against communism did not end with the Cold War. It has merely evolved into new forms that demand renewed vigilance.
Cpac representatives, register your support by saying aye. And observers in the audience. By the way, Gordon wrote that. He's a very good writer. Now this is my favorite and last resolution. It's not my favorite because it's the last, because this is what we're fighting in America. Jerry Daniels, one of our Cpac board members, please read our 7th resolution.
Cpac strongly supports national voter ID requirement to safeguard election integrity and strengthen American democracy. Cpac strongly demands the implementation of strict nationwide voter ID as the essential safeguard of election integrity and democracy. Requiring government-issued photo identification at the polls is not voter suppression, but common sense that every legitimate democracy uses to ensure only eligible citizens vote. Voter ID is the global standard, with 176 countries and jurisdictions requiring it. Let me say that again. 176 countries and jurisdictions require it, including every nation in Africa, all 12 countries in South America, nearly all of Europe, and Canada. The few U.S. states that still refuse any voter ID requirement are all socialist, democratic-controlled strongholds, such as California, Illinois, New York, New Jersey, and Massachusetts, revealing exactly who benefits from weaker verification and eroded public trust. Cpac calls on Republican majority in the United States Senate to take the necessary steps to immediately pass the Save America Act. No more smoke and mirrors, no more excuses, no more bait and switch. We strongly endorse the efforts of Senator Mike Lee to bring a sense of fairness and sanity to the Senate by requiring a filibuster to live up to its definition. It's time for Democrat senators to not merely threaten their opposition to the democratic norms, but to demonstrate that they have the physical and emotional stamina to stand in the well of the Senate for days and weeks to explain to the American people and the other 176 democracies that election integrity is irrelevant in the United States of America. Senator Thune, pass the Save America Act now.
If we could have a show of hands from all the countries here represented at the table, how many of you require voter ID to vote in your democracies? Everyone. Shame on America, shame on Democrats, shame on socialists in America for telling us that voter ID is racist. All languages, all shades, and all ethnicities understand that you have to have voter ID to have democracy. All Cpac representatives, please register your support by saying aye. And I'd like a big aye for the people of Texas if you support this resolution.
제가 한마디 하겠습니다. 오늘 현황과 관련돼서 여러 가지 얘기가 나왔습니다.
I'd like to just add one more thing. There were so many fabulous facets that you brought today to this night.
부정선거가 가장 많이 저질러지고 있는 나라 중에 하나가 바로 대한민국입니다. 우리는 이것을 위해서 막아내기 위해서 싸우고 있습니다.
Right now, South Korea is one of the very places where election fraud is rampant.
우리 대통령, 윤석열 대통령이 불법적으로 탄핵이 됐습니다.
Our president, President Yoon Suk-yeol, was illegally impeached.
윤석열 대통령이 탄핵에 사유가 됐던 내란죄는 없었다라고 제가 계속 얘기를 하고 있는데 무도한 재판들이 진행되고 있습니다.
I have steadfastly voiced my thoughts, my opinion, based on legal experience that he did not lead insurrection, but he is illegally being prosecuted.
오늘 대화 중에 나온 교회 탄압 얘기에 관해서도 지금 대한민국에서 굉장히 심각한 교회 탄압이 이루어지고 있습니다.
And in Korea, there's serious persecution against Christian Church.
제가 지금 말씀드린 세 가지에 대해서 저는 사실은 미국의 제재가 필요하다. 미국의 제재를 통해서 대한민국을 바로잡는 일들이 필요하다 하는 점들을 말씀을 드리고 싶습니다.
This backdrop, I'd like to say that we need sanctions, we need intervention from the United States to save Korea.
중요한 얘기를 추가로 말씀할 수 있도록 기회를 주셔서 감사를 드립니다.
For giving this opportunity to speak before you. Thank you so much.
Well, Mr. Prime Minister, you honor us with your presence, and many of us are greatly concerned about how democracy seems to be crumbling in South Korea. So thank you for your courageous stance. Are there any final comments as we conclude the third annual Cpac Summit? What was that? You want to? No. If there's no more comments, I think it's time to move on to another important part of the Cpac International Summit, and that's the Cpac International Summit reception, which happens right after. God bless all of you in Texas for being here. It's going to be a great Cpac. The motto is actions over words. Don't just tell us what you think, show us what you're going to do to change everything. And we're going to take a quick group photo here, so everyone stay in your seats.
Can lead of Chinese intervention.
변호사님 뒤에서 제가 티켓 받는 거 같이.
예. 아직 못 받아가지고. 네, 대표님 발언을 잘 하셨습니다. 잘 됐지?
거의 그 이사, 그 Cpac 이사는 SCIF랑 똑같이 얘기하던데.
뭐가?
그 부정선거 관련.
그럼. 칼라 샌드 같이.
The guards popping out there somewhere.
Look at me, please. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1.
누나 대표님.
여기. 왜 그래, 졸려. 저기.
일단 대표님 저기 종이랑 좀 사진 좀 찍으셨습니까? 저 안에서. 안에서는 안 찍었지.
To record a short interview for an international on an interfaith topic. I'll run for international public document.
그 투표 부정선거에 대해서 인터뷰를
Just media. Yes. How interfaith? The media. I'll try international public.
대표님 이제 인터뷰 저희가 많이 올 겁니다.
I can show you.
예.
Yes. Oh, there you go.
인터뷰 저희가
It's international. Yes, it's international. Here in the United States and in 180 countries. Yes.
180여 개국에서
So the question would be, how can interfaith
잠깐만 이거 소체 마이크를 설치.
interfaith dialogue? Yes, when different faith communities come together.
Are you with his staff? Yeah. May I get a picture with him? Sure. Thank you. Yeah. After they finish.
기독교는 유일신을 믿는 종교입니다. 그래서 종교적인 통합은 쉽지가 않습니다.
Well, Christianity believes in one God, so integrated religion is difficult to
그러나 신앙의 본질적인 차이를 빼고 나머지 부분에 관해서는 다른 종교들과도 같이 할 수 있고 서로 도울 수 있다고 생각합니다.
However, we could always help each other and contribute to each other to make the society better.
제가 정부에서 일할 때도 기독교가 아닌 다른 종교단체들 7대 종단 뭐 이런 단체들과도 많은 대화를 나눈 바가 있습니다.
As a Prime Minister, I also engaged in various dialogues with other religious groups. There were 7 other religious groups other than Christianity.
질문 있으면.
Do you have any further questions?
Yes, and another question. What are the concrete steps that civic leaders, public officials, and faith leaders can take to bring dialogue, interfaith dialogue, to meaningful action and change, real world change?
시민 단체나 여러 종교 단체들이 구체적인 조치를 취할 수 있나요?
대한민국의 경우에는 교회가 가장 큰 영향력을 미칠 수 있는 조직입니다.
In Korea, actually, the organization that could give the biggest impact are churches.
우리 안에도 교회는 정치라면 안 된다 하는 얘기도 있지만 나는 이거 성경적이지 않다고 생각합니다.
There are some people who say that churches should not be involved in politics, but I do not feel the same way.
교회나 종교단체도 적극적으로 사회 문제에 대해서 나서서 본인들의 가치에 입각한 그런 의견들을 적극적으로 얘기를 하는 것이 옳다고 생각합니다.
Churches and religious organizations should actively voice their opinions in order to contribute and make the society better.
우리나라의 경우에도 여러 가지 반기독교적인 법들이 만들어집니다. 법안이 만들어지는 것들을 막아내기 위해서 싸우고 있습니다.
There are many anti-church legislations underway in Korea, and we're fighting to block them.
지금 대한민국에서는 예를 들어서 포괄적 차별금지법 입법 추진되고 있는데 교회는 이것을 막아내기 위해서 집회도 하고 또 세미나도 하고 여러 가지 노력들을 하고 있습니다.
For example, in Korea, the legislation of comprehensive anti-discriminatory law is being made, but this is actually against Christian faith. That is why we are actively blocking it. We're organizing assemblies, we're organizing many protests every week.
질문했습니다.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. It was a great pleasure. Thank you so much.
황교안 대표님 반갑습니다. 네, 이번에 좋은 말씀 해주셨는데 미미som TV한테 한 말씀 해주시죠. 미미som TV입니다. 네.
Yeah, yes, sure.
선국제 사회에서 제가 필요한 얘기들을 간단하지만 짧지만 얘기를 했습니다. 마지막에 이제 정리한 내용들이 바로 그것이죠. 우리 대한민국에서 부정선거가 저질러지고 있다. 그런 것으로 통해서 지금 윤석열 대통령이 탄핵됐다. 그것 때문에 고통을 받고 있다. 그리고 교회도 탄압받고 있다. 이제 뭉쳐서 싸워야 된다. 제가 그런 얘기를 했습니다. 지금 대한민국은 공산화되고 있습니다. 이걸 막기 위해서 우리가 투쟁하고 있는데 국민 여러분들께서도 이 부분에 대해서 깨어나시고 함께 싸움에 동참해 주시면 고맙겠습니다.
감사합니다. Cpac에 오셔서 말씀을 나눠주셨는데 우리 한국에서 초청을 스스로 하신 건가요? 초청을 받으신 건가요?
반반이죠. 초청을 받았다라고 봐야 되겠죠. 미국 측에서 일하는 분이 이제 저하고 이제 연락하고 이렇게 해서 됐으니까 이거 초청이 됐다고 봐야 되겠죠.
네, 그러니까 초청에 응답하시잖아요.
그렇죠. 예.
네, Cpac에 오셔서 이제 한국 입지를 알려주셔서 황교안 대표님 대단히 감사합니다.
한미 함께하는 한국과 미국이 함께하는 그런 계기가 이번 Cpac 행사를 통해서 이루어질 수 있기를 바랍니다.
감사합니다.
감사합니다.
내가 빨리 사진 찍고 싶어 해서 사진 찍고 싶어 하는 사람들 1, 2, 3 1, 2, 3 Okay.
박수 한번 합시다.
Okay. Another photo. Are you with the same? Are you okay after? Thank you so much.
Thank you. Glad to meet you.
And I'll take the photo. Are you
know
with
the story? We know what's going on.
Oh, do you?
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Okay, I'm not a good. Can you line up? 1, 2. Okay.
Can you give me yours?
Actually, it's a bit blurry. Can you? Here you go. Who's next?
I'm
from Georgia.
Would you mind? Glad to meet you. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, okay, good. That's better. Thank you. Oh. 저번에 왔잖아요. GC에서 네. GC에서 왔었죠.
Thank you so much.
여기 GC에도 왔었어요.
사랑이 왔어요.
어디?
어디?
Thank you so much.
우와.
Long live to Korea.
어떡해. 천조국도 있어. 있어요?
땡큐.
아니 핸드폰 있으면은 저기 있어요? 저기 있어요? 뒤부터?
오, nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
오,
했어요?
thank you very much. 이야기를
잠깐만요. 네.
이야기를 너무 잘 듣고 있어요.
I've been following you. Thank you so much for your wonderful videos.
Yes, of course. Anything I can do to help.
도와주기 위해서 뭐든지 할 수 있습니다.
저에 대해서 좋은 얘기를 하고 계셔서
Thank you
감사드리는데
for your great comments regarding me.
그게 다 팩트였어요.
They're all facts, actually.
그게 다 진실이었어요.
They're all true.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
감사합니다. 손을 너무 오래 잡고 있는 건가?
Maybe I'm holding on to you too long.
It's surreal.
Yes. Us too. 저 같이 보는 게 너무나도 이게 현실인가 긴가 아닌가 생소하대요.
저도 아주 정말 반가운데 더 반가운 것은 이렇게 생각이 같은 정의로운 이런 분하고 같이 이렇게 만나서 대화할 수 있게 된 게 나도 참 너무 기쁩니다.
I'm so happy to be with someone who share the same values, same thoughts. So I'm just filled with joy. Just seeing.
I want to get a picture.
네. 그리고 사진 찍고 싶어요.
그 전에
네.
내가 늘
First of all,
궁금했던 게 하나
I
있는데
really wanted to ask you one thing.
천조국 발행이의 뜻이 뭘까?
What's the meaning of 천조국 발행이?
So 천조국 is like our military budget that we have.
그 천조가 그 국방 예산이래. 국방 예산. Actually, it's like Ministry of War. 국방이 아니라 전쟁국 예산.
And then
발행이는
people think it's my eye color, but it's the color of the opposition. Like the opposition.
제 눈의 색깔인 줄 알지만 사실 눈의 색깔이 아니라 반대하는 사람의 그런 색깔. 네, 그 눈 색깔이랑은 관계가 없어요.
이제 정말 아주 확실히 천조국 발행이의 의미를 알게 돼서
Now I know what it means for sure.
나중에 볼 때마다 TV를 볼 때마다 내 생각이 좀 새로워질 것 같습니다.
I will always think about it when I'm watching your videos.
사진 한번 찍읍시다.
Let's take a photo. So there you go.
잠깐만.
먼저 사진. 남편이래요. 같이. 신기해. 네, 명함. 네.
사진 찍고.
있어요. 당연히.
부인 옆으로. 누가 찍어? 누가 찍냐고. 여기 찍어.
이럴 것 같아서 더 갖고 왔어요.
카메라가 하나도 없는데. 사진 좀 찍어.
기다리고 계시는 동안 너무 죄송해서.
If you wanted to take a picture of that, that's a picture of an original Barry Goldwater. He's the guy that started the real conservative movement. It's a 1960s book.
신학교 후배님이 찍어주시네.
I'll take a photo from him.
I was actually hoping that he might be able to sign his name and collecting conservatives. Those are all the people that have signed. Glenn Beck, Pete Hegseth, Steve Bannon in there.
목사님 인사하세요. 황교안 대표님하고 동창이시라며.
He's willing to sign his name.
Okay, so if you could wait a bit,
네네, 그때 있었고요. I'm going to actually donate this book to the Reagan Library when I have enough signatures.
천조국 발행이하고.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
우리 멤버들 다 같이. 우리 멤버들 같이.
다 같이 천조국 발행이랑.
멤버들 같이.
후반대.
같이 사진
아니면 여기 같이 한번 찍어.
그래서 전 지금 현재는 지금 아틀란타에서 홈리스 아버지로 있고 전 세계 한 70개 교회를 세우고 있습니다.
잠깐만, 이거 사진 한번 찍어.
맞아요.
누가 찍어?
아기 있으면 이제 이런 거 잘 못할 텐데.
그럼요. 거의 마지막에.
1년 만, 1, 2년 그럼.
맞아요.
I know, but in Korea it's a different story. You know, it's very, yeah, he's got persecuted.
I'm Danielle. Nice to meet you. Thank you for being here in America. It's very big here, especially at Cpac when we have Donald Trump as our president doing what we can, and we know
not only election fraud,
you're trying to raise awareness.
they have
so much,
actually
and you
controlled the media. So all these activities
여기 우리도
is
감사하고 모든
silent.
일에 있어서 여기 본이 되고 이 자기도 마음속에 감동이 많이 됐다고 말씀하고 계세요. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Okay.
Have some quick pictures.
I will take it for you.
Thank you. Thank you.
너무 아깝고 제가 계속 기도하실 수 있어요.
도와드리고 싶은데.
감사합니다. 아틀란타에서
네.
다운타운에
사진 찍어 주실래요? 제가 여기 가끔 약간 그리고 아마
박사님 여기 미국 학생들 사진 찍습니다.
저희
그러니까요. 여기 다 기던. 네.
조심하십시다. 예.
여기서 하나 저도 주셔야지. 미미성은 매일 봤는데 대화 만지고
학생들인데